Hi, and welcome to Hope Unabridged. I'm Casey Brennan.
I'm Angie Elkins.
And we're so excited for you to be here today. Today we are talking with author and artist Emily Lex on just purpose and pivoting and quiet confidence, which are just like really good words. They're like comfort words to me right now.
Encouraging words, right?
Like that quiet. I just can't wait to hear what she means by quiet confidence. And pivot has been a big thing for me this year, just as I'm going into turning 40. But just what that looks like.
You're such a baby. You're such a young little thing. But I know what you mean. I mean, it's like we hit those milestone numbers and we really do stop and kind of take, I don't know, just sort of, what do we, inventory.
Yeah.
Take inventory with our lives. And so it sounds like that's what happened to her when she hit 40.
Oh, I could totally relate to everything in her book. So I'm excited to talk to her about it.
Yeah, me too.
But Emily Lex is a watercolor artist, longtime blogger, and author of Freely and Lightly. Her work has been featured in the Magnolia Journal, Better Homes and Gardens, and on HGTV. Emily lives in the Seattle area with her husband and 4 children, and she writes and shares her art at emilylex.com. Welcome, Emily. We're so glad to have you.
I'm so happy to be here.
I loved your book, Freely and Lightly. It's so beautiful, first of all. It's kind of like, do I want to put this out on the coffee table or like keep it next to my bed? It's just, it's so beautiful. But
Thank you.
Can you give us all just a snapshot of just kind of your background? And I think you got your start in blogging, right? From your early beginnings?
I did. Yeah. I was a blogger for about 10 years. And I mean, it just was the weirdest career, right? Like I have 4 little kids and just shared about our house and our family and faith a little bit. And then in the last maybe 4 or 5 years, it was like God was kind of saying like, okay, it's time to kind of close these things down and let's deal with some of the things that are inside of you that maybe can't be shared publicly yet. And so that was a really weird time for us because I had spent 10 years sharing everything. And then to feel like, I can't talk about pillows anymore when like what's going on in my heart is so much more important. So quieted things down, actually closed that blog. And then I wrote this book. So the book is really, it's like, it tells that story of that kind of in-between time. But I mean, it's so much more than that. But that's how I got my start, was in blogging.
At what point, were you always an artist? Like where did the painting come in?
I've always been an artist. We're coming up on our 20-year wedding anniversary, and I watercolored like our wedding invitation, the little map.
Yeah.
So it's something that I've always done. I just don't think that I would have ever called myself an artist in that kind of like painting way. I'm just super creative. But over just the last couple of years, that art has become really like just a way for me to like worship him and for him to kind of like pull some things out of me. So a lot of those paintings are in the book. And I mean, I never expected that I would write a book and have paintings in it. So
it's beautiful too.
Cool.
I love it.
Yeah.
One of the things that stood out to me in it was just kind of the pivotal moment in your life when I think it was around your 40th birthday. I can't remember exactly. So I'm there now. And so it was like this very relatable moment where I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel everything that you were going through at that point.
Yeah.
Can you kind of walk us through what that was like,
Sure.
what you were experiencing during that time and kind of where it led you?
Yeah, I think it probably started for me maybe in my early 30s, where what I kind of call it is this slow waking up. And I was like, God was slowly waking me up to all of the things that I was looking to in my life to give me value and identity. And they were good things. And so it wasn't like I came to a point where it's like, and then my life fell apart. It was like, okay, I have everything that I could have ever dreamed of. And yet I'm still so insecure on the inside. I'm still like grabbing at things and on the verge of actually making some really poor life choices because nothing is satisfying.
Yeah.
And so I think God was so gentle to wake me up slowly until it came to a point where it was like, I can't keep doing this. I can't keep feeling like this on the inside when my outside is trying to present this really wonderful appearance. I just can't keep doing this. And so, so that's kind of where that like quietness came from with the blogging, where it was like, I've got to attend to my soul. We've got to figure this out. So I've always been a believer and like a really genuine Jesus follower, but I think I just was missing the mark where I wasn't actually trusting in him. I was really looking out for myself and trying to fill myself and find my identity in my husband, in my kids, in my job, in social media, in a pretty house, in all of the things that like an average like American woman, we kind of all want these things. And it's so easy to look to them to give us meaning and value. So that was just, it was a long journey and it was hard, but so beautiful. And I think that what I keep hearing from people when they're reading the book is like, oh my gosh, you could be writing my words. Yes. And I just think this is a really shared experience that we all kind of go through. So.
It is. And my husband and I were talking about it last night too, because it's just like he feels behind. You know, like we're both at that age where we have 3 kids, they're growing up and we feel like we aren't to the place where we wanted to be. And what do we do with these 3 kids and their futures? And it's like, he feels overwhelmed. I feel overwhelmed in my calling. And it's like, it's a lot. It's
I know. I'm like, I want to hug you. I get it. I know. And my husband says the same thing too. Like I just wonder if there's something that happens around 40 where it's like, okay, we're really ambitious. We've had a lot of kids. We had a lot of kids in a short amount of time. Right. We bought a house and we have a dog and we like have all the things, but yet is this really it? Is this like all that there is? Because there's still something kind of unsettled in there. And it's so easy to then be like, well, maybe I just need a new job, or maybe we just need to move, or maybe, but no, actually the like unrest of your soul is most likely that you're trying to find your identity in places that just will never fulfill. And that's kind of the like conclusion that I came to, which thank the Lord, right?
Well, I'd love to hear a little bit about that because you quit your blog. And I'm sure that was not just okay, I'll quit my blog and do nothing for a while. Can you just tell me a little bit more about that decision? Like, how did you finally say enough is enough and I'm going to shut everything down? Like, give me some insight into that.
Oh my goodness. If you could have only been in this household. The most difficult part of the whole thing is that my husband was a firefighter and he quit his job. He's a brilliant marketer and that's what he loves. And so we work together. And that's probably why I had any success to begin with, is like I had him and me together. And so me closing down the blog and the like secondary businesses we had off of it was essentially me firing my husband. So it wasn't just a decision that was like, well, I think I'm just going to like be quiet now online. It was a loss of income. It was really difficult between the two of us because he didn't totally feel the same way as me, but it also felt like, I really think this is what God's asking. And so it was actually really brutal. It was very, very hard, but I do feel like obeying that and coming to that obedience. It takes a long time. It's not like instantly it was like, and then everything's fine. And I think I even say that in the book, like those acts of obedience didn't automatically make life circumstances better. In fact, it made them look worse from the outside. And yet my soul was at rest. And we were able to deal with things in our marriage and business partnership that maybe if we had just continued on the way we were, we weren't going to get down to the bottom of like what actually was going on. So I think that we're maybe far enough away from it, maybe to be able to say like, gosh, we're so thankful for that. But it was not easy. And I think anytime you pivot away from something where you are finding success, and out of obedience, it's so hard. It's super hard. So I don't ever want to sugarcoat it because it wasn't wonderful.
Yeah. I love the word pivot. And it's been like something that's kind of just been marinating in my mind for the last year and just like that pivoting into purpose. And I feel like that's kind of where like you embody that in this, in this whole book. Can you talk a little bit about like, what were the things that you were hearing? What was God saying to you? How did that make you feel in those moments?
Oh my gosh, what do I want to say? One of the things that I struggle the most with is wanting to just please people and wanting that affirmation. And so when you're in a career like a blogger and you're online and it's like, I just want to please people. I just want to make them happy. And so I think that this was the way for God I kept feeling like, you know how horses have blinders on? kind of felt like that. It was like he was kind of saying, like, you just have to stop looking around. You need to stop looking to the left or the right. You need to just put on blinders and you just need to look at me right now. Which for a person who, like, the way that I get value is by looking around to see who's approving of me or who's disapproving and what do I need to change or do differently. And so for him to say, like, put the blinders on, this is not about that. Like, this is you and me need to get this stuff figured out. So that's really, I think it was like, quiet down, stop listening to good things, good resources, digging into the Enneagram and personality and spiritual direction and all of that stuff. Devotionals, all of those things are so helpful and wonderful. But I think there just came a point where he was like, you need to quiet everything, quiet all of the noise. And the only thing that matters is for you to figure out, do you trust me? And when it really came down to it, I really didn't. And so it was me having to, like, admit, oh, there are some things in my life that I think you didn't do right. And I think I could have done them better. And so here I am kind of trying to hold on to that control because maybe I just don't trust that God is good. So really it was just like, put on the blinders. Let's figure out, like, what is the character of God and do I trust him? And that really was a journey.
Yeah. Tell me more about your painting. Have you always been painting? Like, just tell me was that something that kind of came alive during this time?
It was. So let's see, in January 1st, 2019. So I hadn't started the book yet, but my 40th birthday was in October of 2018. Am I correct on that? 2019. I don't know what, but I turned 40 in October, and there was some kind of miraculous healing that had happened in my life. And I sat on the floor. This was in November, so a month later, and I was like, okay, now what, God? Because, like, you've healed me and this is great. And I've closed down the blog and I don't really know what I'm doing where I'm going and what's next. And he just whispered to me, be an artist. Ooh. And it was weird-ish, but like, I'm an artist and I'm creative. And so it wasn't like, I don't think that he's going to call us into something that's like, what in the world? I think he knows who we are. And we kind of have a glimpse of who that person is, but he just said, be an artist. And so the best thing that I knew how to do was just to pull out my watercolor stuff and be like, well, I haven't painted in a long time, so maybe I'll be an artist like that. And then on January 1st of that, so that was like November, December, I just kind of was dabbling in art a little bit more, really questioning if I was good or not. Because anytime you do art, you're like, I don't know, maybe this is terrible. What am I doing? But just really trusting. He says, be an artist. I'm going to figure out how to practice being an artist. Yeah. So on New Year's Day, I woke up and I was like, you know what? I think I should do a painting every single day for the whole year. And I don't know where that thought came. Well, actually, the Holy Spirit gave me that thought, but it just was like, okay, I think I'll do that. And so for the year of 2019, I just every single day did a little painting. And I think that year was so pivotal in just practicing who God says I am and figuring out, what does it mean to be an artist? Is it actually the doing of art, or is it the way that you are seeing? And I think it really is the way that you are looking for beauty and you're capturing beauty and then you're sharing beauty. And so I learned a ton in that year of doing art. A lot of the pieces are in this book. And then I just have like a basket with 365 paintings.
That's awesome.
But I think that it built confidence, and ultimately, I think what it did is it just allowed me to practice being who he said I was.
I love that.
I'd love for you to dive into that confidence part a little more, because you talk about quiet confidence. Like, what is quiet confidence? Because when you think of confidence, you think of like, I am so confident and big and loud.
Yeah.
But what is that? What does that quiet confidence look like?
Yeah. Years ago, like, my kids were little bitty. And I think I read a scripture that talked about quiet confidence. And I was like, I don't know what that is, but I want that. Because to me, it felt like, and I'm not a real loud life of the party kind of person. And so what does confidence look like when you are a little bit, not that like boisterous, proud, like that's just not totally in line with my personality. And I don't know that I always love that in a person. So I didn't really want to be that. And so I think this was a journey of figuring out, what does it look like to be quietly confident? Because I do think that God wants his children to be confident in who we are, but can we do that in a quiet way where we just are showing up as ourselves, not needing to grab to the world to like bolster us,
Right.
but we can just show up quietly and confidently. And so I think actually what that word is peace. And I think when he creates that, when he gives you that peace in your soul that says you're okay, that I made you and I love you and I've chosen you and I've forgiven you, and now you can just go into the world being who you are because I'm super proud of who you are. That just gives you peace to be able to move through the world and not have to look to it to give you anything, because you're already there. You're already settled. So those are that's really has been my experience of what that quiet confidence looks like. I know that there's more. I mean, I've been on this journey for a little while, but I'm only 42. And I know when I'm 80, I'm going to be like, man, if I only knew better when I was 42. So, but I just think that's like what abundant life is. That's what joy is. That's what peace is. I think that is what quiet confidence, I think that's what he wants for all of his children.
Yeah.
Has that contributed to you being able to let go of control? You call yourself a self-deprecating control freak. So tell us how you've transitioned from being that into where you are now.
Yeah, I think you just have to look down at like, what is the fear that's underneath that control? And what am I trying to prove by being in control? And for me, it's often, I'm trying to self-protect. I'm trying to self-promote. I'm trying to take care of myself by controlling and holding on to things, which is ultimately the antithesis of trusting God. And so when you're able to relinquish that control and recognize, like, the reason I'm trying to control is because I don't trust God, that I don't think he has me in his best interest. And so really it's just like, oh my gosh, how many times does scripture say, like, renew your mind, capture those thoughts and really test them against what is true. And so it's just now learning. I mean, I wish that I would have learned this 20 years ago, but it's now learning, like, what does that look like to actually take those thoughts captive and say, man, right now I'm just really feeling anxious. Why am I feeling anxious? Like, what's underneath that? How am I trying to protect myself in this? And how am I not trusting God? It's just, I think that it's just like those daily practices that now I'm like trying to, incorporate those into my life now so that I don't walk around feeling anxious and fearful and self-protective and doing things out of selfish motive, because that's my inclination. That's what so I think what we all kind of are inclined to do.
Yeah.
I think you've really hit on something there that a lot of us don't even spend enough kind of internal or quiet time to say, I'm really feeling anxious. Why am I feeling anxious? Even to recognize. To
notice it.
Or even become aware that am I a control freak? I mean, my kids joke around about it, but am I? And even beginning to notice the little ways we try to control things in our lives, right? That's the first step.
Yeah. I was listening to a couple of your episodes, and I think you said that this is the year that you're learning to notice.
Yes,
that's right.
Yeah.
And I think that is the key. It's like, gosh, we are just on autopilot all the time, just doing these things that we've always done or other people are doing. And so you're like, well, it's normal. Yeah. And instead, I think it's like, gosh, it's a spiritual practice to just notice. Yeah. And then once you're able to, and I'm a pretty like self-aware kind of person, and I know it doesn't always come naturally to everyone, but then it's just asking, like, what's under the surface of that? And can you just saying, like, Lord, test my anxious thoughts. What's in there? Help me understand what's in there.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. Noticing has been a really big thing for me this year. And just even so, yesterday, this happened last night. I had just cleaned and I had like organized and I'd spent the day. Summer is here and I am getting rid of stuff. And I was like making dinner in the other room, and I hear two of my younger ones. They're like, I don't know, they're making things out of their kitchen, their play kitchen set, and they're in the other room. And I'm just like kind of listening to them play, which is cute. I walk in and it's like everywhere. I mean, all of this that I had just spent cleaning is everywhere. And rather than say anything, I walked back in to the kitchen where I was, and I was like, they are just mimicking what I'm doing. And that's good. That's a good thing. That's a time to embrace that mess. And I think I think maybe a year ago me would have been like, oh, I just cleaned all of this. What are you doing? But in that moment, I noticed, okay, I know what I want to say here. I'm going to stop and I'm going to recognize that this is a good mess. They're playing nice and they're just mimicking me. And so I think it is those tiny little things. And it's hard when we're in our own heads and we're trying to control, like we're trying to control our environment. We're trying to control the situations. I would love for you, you've mentioned it just briefly, and parenting. Can you talk about quiet confidence in parenting and what that looks like on the other side of your pivot?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. I mean, I have teenage kids right now. Well, 3 of them are teenage boys, and then I have an 11-year-old girl. And I think this is just constantly on the top of my mind. Like, I want to send them into the world knowing that God is good and they are loved. Like, that's my goal.
Yeah, that's good.
God is good. You are loved. And so how can I do that? So I think it's really easy to parent kids and parent behavior out of the kids. But I think where I continually land is like, the behavior is just a symptom of something else that's underneath there. And I want to get to what's underneath. So my poor kids have to deal with me and my like emotional health and my spiritual health conversations all the time. But I just think that's what's important. Like, I want to raise these kids to be able to take their thoughts captive and then test them. Like, is that true or not? And I'm certainly not doing a perfect job, but I also just think, technology is a big deal right now with these kids. And so instead of just saying like, here's our rule, live with the rule, what I want them to understand is, why do we have this rule? What's underneath that? Like, is it the best thing for you to be spending 6 hours playing whatever game it is? And it's not because I don't want you to have fun. It's that I want you to be a kind of person who can set boundaries and understand underneath that. Are you just trying to escape, or are you bored and you don't know how to be creative? Or like, let's get to like more of the heart of it rather than just living in the behavior kind of, realm.
Yeah, totally.
Oh, I love that.
It's so good.
I had one other question, and it was just more back to your painting, just because I'm so impressed with it and I love it. But was it weird for you to say, I'm an artist? Like, I feel that, and I think that right now, going through this transitional weird period of my life, like, I've been an author for most of my life, but I've never named that. Like, it's weird for me to say. So, so can you walk me through like what that
totally
felt like?
I mean, it is really weird, and it's still one of those, like, I wrote a book and it's published and my paintings are in it, and I sell my artwork, and I have a children's book coming out that I illustrated, and that is like had been a dream of mine forever. I love children's books, and yet I still look at that book and I'm like, I don't know if it's very good. I don't know if my art's very good. And that's something that I really have to fight, because it's like, I don't know, it's not the best art in the entire world, but also I don't know that it needs to be the best art in the entire world. And so it's more of a just, I think it's really more of just honoring who God made me to be. And I don't know that he made me to be the very best artist in all the land. And I don't know that he made me the kind of artist who does the things that I imagine artists do, where you are part of galleries and it's like fine art. I just don't know that that's also how he created me to be. But I think that when I'm doing art, it feels worshipful and I feel like he's using it. And so I think it's just kind of learning to say, like, God, I'm going to use this thing that you've given me for your glory. And whatever that looks like. And I need to stop putting my own kind of expectations on it and my own analysis of whether it's good or not. Like, I don't know that matters. So do I walk around all the time and be like, I'm Emily, the artist? Like, I mean, it's a little awkward. So I don't know that I totally do that, but I'm just learning how I think he made us with purpose, and he made us, and all of ours looks a little bit different. And I don't know that you even need to like put that title behind your name. I just think you need to use the things he's given you for his glory. You just use it to worship him. And I'm at the baby stage of learning how to do that. So ask me in 10 years and maybe it looks different. Maybe I'm like, I'm an artist. It is awkward. It's awkward. And maybe it's also because, maybe for you, like an author looks a certain way to you and you maybe don't fit that mold. And so it's also just saying, like, there's not just one way. And you don't need to compare how your stuff looks versus other people, because that person also probably feels like a fraud in a little way too.
Yeah.
So it's just saying like, well, God, you've given me this thing and I'm just going to use it to the best that I can.
Yeah.
So good. This has been a great conversation. I could honestly talk to you for 2 hours at least. But we're running out of time. But I want you to know our show, as you know, is called Hope Unabridged. And so we love to ask all of our guests as we close, where are you finding hope these days?
Well, I knew you were going to ask me this question. So I've been trying to think
prepared.
Like, what I want to say. Okay. My shallow answer, I have 2 answers kind of. Both. My shallow answer is sunshine, because summertime, we just finished school for the kids and it feels like, it's like we're ready for this new season. And so just the sun and knowing we're going to be outside and water, that's super hopeful. My deeper answer is, and I will try not to take very much time, but we did homeschool this year for the first time. And it has been very challenging because at the same time I launched a book and wrote another book and I have another one due in a couple weeks. So it's been hard. But over the month, my mother-in-law came and helped us for several months of it. But the month of May was my month to take on the schooling just totally by myself for the kids. And I'm telling you, we just finished last week, and the last like 10 days of doing school has been more fulfilling for me than I ever would have imagined. And I think that the real lesson in there was like, God asked me to do something and I did it. Yeah. And he filled me with the ability to do it because it was not in my own strength. And there's so much hope for me in being like, when he asks us to do something, he'll equip us. That's really hopeful to me, because I have some things on my plate that kind of look like I'm not sure how those are going to actually happen. But if he's called us to it, he will be faithful to complete it. And that feels super hopeful.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Wow.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much
for joining us. I've loved
You're
this
welcome.
conversation. It's been so fun.
Yeah, thank you.
Good. Good.
Thanks for joining us today on Hope Unabridged. We'd like to remind you, if you're watching us on Good Life 45, you can also listen to these episodes everywhere you listen to podcasts.
If you're listening and you would like to see the filmed version of the show or any of our other shows, check us out on Good Life 45 on our YouTube channel and our app.
We hope that something you've heard today really blessed you, and we would love for you to share this show with those you love. Just hit that share button on your podcast app or on YouTube and send it to a friend. And we would also love for you to leave us a review. With this program, we're finding hope in the unedited stories of our lives, and we want you to do the same.